Atari ST Log Magazine, number 2, May 1986. An action RPG, point and click, and more.
Into the vertical line, generation Atari. Into the vertical line.
We continue a look at Atari after the Warner sale, specifically focusing on ST Log Magazine, which is still an insert into the American Atari 8-bit magazine analog at this point in time. Our focus is the ST as an entertainment machine, but it was such a great general-purpose computer that we will stop along the way to look at some of the more interesting applications, especially if they had an entertainment focus or if we have some experience using the application. We will also stop briefly to look at some of the more interesting magazine articles. Let's get started. The cover is black with orange writing. The tagline is, "The Atari ST Operators Magazine." What looks like an Atari ST created picture of a shaded blue knight wielding a gold-handled sword is on the cover. The orange promo text says, ST Soundwaves, Seamanship, Word Processing on the Atari. First up is the Abacus ad from last month. I still keep the internals book on hand for when I'm doing research or looking up a call that might work from GFA Basic or even STOS. The table of contents is next. It's not a very extensive issue, with only the news section not being mentioned on the cover and no specific game reviews. As this is mostly a game-related retrospective, we will look for any game mentions in the magazine as we go forward in this issue, but the applications for the ST are still very interesting to us, especially the early efforts, so we will see if there's anything else we can dig into. One such item comes up on the next page, the graphic artist. This full-page ad was also in the April issue, and it looks like a desktop publishing piece of software. When looking at Atari Mania, I found an entry for the graphic artist 1.5 preview, and the graphic artist font editor. Only the 1.5 preview has a runnable disk image. Let's take a look at that in Steam right now. I have no idea what to do with it. It kind of looks like it might function like VI or Vim on Linux and not be very friendly. If I use the arrow keys along the bottom, I can choose a function. Here I am playing around with it a bit. I do eventually figure out how to select a font and annotate the image. It's not very user-friendly at all, unfortunately. The next section is Modula 2 by TDI Software in Texas, a programming language review by Sol Gruber. The lowdown is that Sol likes it, but the missing documentation of the gem routines makes him still want to use DRI's C compiler. News. On the game front, Penguin Software, which will become Polarware soon, had 3 new $39.99 priced interactive novels for the Atari ST, including The Coveted Mirror, Frank and Ernest, and OO-topos. They also have released a fun action RPG, not what they called it back then, but what I call it now, called Sort of Kadash, which we'll take a look at right now. In Sort of Kadash, you hold down Control and J for joystick control. This game is a little bit of a hidden gem. Sort of Kadash is a true action RPG set in the Persian desert. It will need to be explored a lot more. The instructions are on Atari Mania, so possibly a deep dive is in the future. Okay, let's take a look at one of those adventure games right now too, OO-topos. OO-topos is a interesting mix of graphics and mouse-style adventure where you still need to type in most of the commands. It's a graphic update of a 1981 Apple II game. This updated version was one of the better first examples of a traditional text and graphics adventure with added mouse controls to make it point and click, but not in the point and click mold that most people are used to, the Sierra kind. This updated version was also released on Apple II, Commodore 64, DOS, and Amiga. Also, Supra already has 10, 20, 30, and 60 meg hard drives getting ready for the ST, with prices ranging from $799 to just under $2,000 for the 60 megabyte version. No wonder hard drives took a while to become popular with ST owners. One really interesting bit, at least for Steve and I, was the local ST shop advertising a 520 ST upgrade. Lamar Micro offers a 1 megabyte 520 ST upgrade for $300, giving the user over 750K of RAM, which is interesting because I think that equals 1 megabyte of RAM. Anyway, in conjunction with their RAM overdrive, the upgrade lets you set aside the upper 512K of RAM as a RAM disk. RAM overdrive retails for $34.95 from Lamar Micro, 2107 Artesia Boulevard, Redondo Beach, California, 90278. This store was about 1 mile from our house, but never sold any game software at all, and turned back into a vacuum cleaner store when the ST became less popular just a couple years later. Other highlights in this news include that telecommunications was heating up on the ST. There were some interesting new products like IS Talk, a batteries included telecom piece of software including a spell checker, and IS Time, a billing system. As well, Forum ST and ST Term from ComNet were released. VIP Professional on the next page. This is a Lotus 123 integrated business suite that Steve and I actually purchased and used for school and some basic databases. The list price for the light version is $99.99. That's the one I most likely think we had. Let's take a look at this really quick. Steve and I used the spreadsheet and database functions early on to make lists of words to import into GFA for a sentence generator. Mostly a naughty sentence generator. We also used it for some business classes in college. Here I am adding in lists of words that could be used in random sentences. Next up is James Luczak's Soundwaves article about accessing ST sound from BASIC. Here is an interesting quote from James. I've owned an Atari since 1979 and have watched sound routines progress from simple one-voice melodies to truly amazing sound productions now possible on the 8-bit line of computers. It may seem hard to believe, but the 520 ST is capable of producing sound as good if not better than the 8-bit computers. However, there's one problem, a lack of information concerning the 520 ST's sound capabilities. James goes on to create a program that demonstrates the sound in BASIC. I found this program listed in an OCR format on archive.org, but it needs major fixes before it will work and is out of scope for this video. I looked through all of the online public domain libraries and I could not find a disk labeled with ST log type-ins or ST sound waves. If anyone knows of a source of these on disk, please let me know. As we proceed through these issues, I'll continue to find some non-game focused items to demonstrate, but not this one this time, unfortunately. The Dragon Group has a fourth programming language for the ST called 4x4 and also ST Coloring Book. They seem to claim it's the future of coloring books. Megasoft, a large Commodore utility publisher, is looking for unique Atari ST utilities to publish, but I did not find any under their name on Atari Mania, so maybe they never published any. Here's the rest of Soundwaves. Stylish Software is up next. Like last month, HABA is advertising HABA Writer, HABA Phonebook, and HABA Modem software, as well as our HABA hard drive, which at $699 is $100 less than the 10 megabyte super drive. There's an interesting ad on the next page for the $300 or $299 Shanner PC700CI color printer that can be purchased with VIP Professional from Gumball Express. I'm not 100% sure if Gumball is the maker of the printer or just a third party that is packaging these two up to sell together. In the latest Seamanship by Clayton Walnum, he tackles a simple craps dice simulation. Next up is Arthur Leyenberger's column on word processors on the Atari 520 ST. He starts out with another interesting paragraph in the history of the ST. The 16-bit Atari has been available to the public for 9 months now, and there's no denying its success. The reason for its popularity is largely due to the amount of software available for the machine. There's no category of software more widely used than word processing programs, regardless of which computer we talk about. This applies to the Atari ST as well. Fortunately, there are plenty of programs to choose from, as you will discover. He moves on to review First Word, Regent Word, Habit Writer, and Final Word, all ready for commercial word processors for the ST. I'm pretty sure Steve and I had ST Writer, which isn't any of these listed. Let's continue going through. Next up is an ad from Logicron, the Logic Soft Card, which is a clock and solitaire, study guide, and calendar. These, I think, are all desktop accessories for the Atari ST. They have inside this word processing article, then we have an ST term ad for VT52 emulation. Then we have Easy Draw by MyGraph. We have some other small ads for C shell, for Micro C and the C shell. We have some mail order computer outlet companies that sell printer cables. We have Sirius Software, not the Sirius software on the Atari 8-bits or Apple. And then we come to the game Word for Word. Now, I tried to load up Word for Word to show it, so I have a video of that here. What happened was the Atari Mania STX file is a copy protected. So when you load it up, it tells you to please insert the original disk, which of course I don't have. What I did find was a way to create your own boards for the Scrabble-like game. And here is Xanth computers with a 520 ST integrated station. And then we come up with an interesting final ad for Shanner. Again, Shanner was the one that had the printer. This is also from Gumball Express. Shanner has a double 1 megabyte disk drives that cost roughly $3.99, which is just a little bit more than one 512 meg drive and less by $200 than two of Atari's 1 meg drives. That would be a really good deal if you needed 2 disk drives. Okay, that's it for this time. ST log number 3 will be coming up in a couple weeks. Thanks for watching and listening.